It's time for the movie raid, and tonight's victim again will be Thomas G. Waits, actor, director, played in amongst many films as well as TV, such as John Carpenter's The Thing and The Warriors. Hello.
Hey Mike, how are you?
I'm peachy.
So yeah, I was saying when we were talking before, I did an interview yesterday because I have a film that's coming out on DVD that I shot back in 1977, if you can remember back that far. It's a movie called On the Yard, and it was so long ago that they didn't have VHS even back then.
Wow.
But it's finally being picked up and turned into a DVD, and it was my very first feature film. And it's called On the Yard. It's a prison drama starring myself, of course, and John Hurd, an actor named Mike Kellen, Richie Bright, who's no longer with us, Joe Grafassi, Dominic Chianese has a part in it. There's a lot of great actors in it, and it got tremendous reviews when it first opened back in '78. Lines around the block reviews. The New York Times loved it, and so it's just been sitting around, and I don't know, it's one of those independent. It was an independent before there was such thing as independent, directed by a man named Raphael Silver. You probably know his wife, Joan Micklin Silver, who directed Hester Street and Head Over Heels, and another movie with Kevin Bacon that I can't remember the name of, Him and Her, or His Story, Her Story, something like that. Anyway, so that's going to be coming out on DVD pretty soon, so you could probably get it on Netflix. On the Yard, based on a novel by a man named Malcolm Brawley, who also is unfortunately no longer with us. But he was a guy, like in his early 40s, and he'd spent 26 years in prison by the time I'd met him.
Wow.
Yeah. So he did his time, I think mostly bank robbery or whatever. But anyway, it's a prison drama about the hierarchical system in prisons, and it's quite an interesting movie. I haven't seen it in a while, but the last time I saw it, I was 22 when I did it, my first feature film.
Nice.
But yeah, check that out. The other things that I have going on is, I don't know if you know this, but I'm also a musician. I'm just a 3-chord rhythm guitar guy, but I'm a songwriter, and I have a little music act that I'm putting together called The Old Man and the Kid. Me on guitar and a little bit of piano, and my partner is a 16-year-old boy in high school that plays the cajones and sings very, very well. He's a great singer. And so we've been developing that, and we're going to start playing out in New York pretty soon here, it looks like.
Nice.
That's very interesting, yeah. We do mostly original songs. We do a few covers. I'm a big The Band fan, so I do a few The Band songs. You may be too young to remember them, but that's back in the 70s and early 80s, The Band. Actually, they split up in 76, I think. And then the other thing that I'm doing is I wrote a play called Macaire, M-A-C-A-I-R-E, and it's a musical, but it's actually a play with music. And once a year, I go to Germany to a place called Cologne, or Köln, as the Germans call it. They bring me over there, and I go to a film school, and I direct them in a play. So I kind of talked them into doing my play. So it'll be the world premiere of Macaire by Thomas G. Waits, words and music written by Thomas G. Waits, book by Thomas G. Waits, and I won't be in it. I'll just be direct. Enough of Thomas G. Waits. How are you doing, Mike?
I am doing just fine. Just fine. Can't tell you the movie raid's doing just fine. If you guys would actually listen, you would know how great it would be. I ain't gonna tell you. Have you ever actually incorporated your music in all your plays, or have you been starting doing that now?
I try to incorporate my music in all my plays. I directed Shakespeare's As You Like It this summer at the Baruch College of Performing Arts, and I had written a score for it, basically, with another guy, and almost turned it into a musical. I mean, not quite, but there was certainly a lot of music in it, a lot of excellent singing, and it was all my acting students, because as you know, I run the TGW, Thomas G. Waits Acting Studio here in New York City, and one of the things that I do differently is that I try to create opportunities for my students, not just to be in my acting class, but also to be in plays, so that they get the opportunity to perform in New York City, which is, the only way you really get good.
Yeah, it can be really difficult, especially now, considering what's been going on. But do you have kind of a non-profit thing going on, or do you make it pretty fair for everybody?
Yeah, no, it's not a non-for-profit. That's a very hard status to come by, non-for-profit.
Yeah.
The 501(c)(3), they don't give them out very often. They used to give them out, like they were water, but ever since 9/11, they kind of cut way back on those things. So, no, I'm just a straight-ahead little, doing business as Thomas G. Waits, and, we, fortunately, however, we are going to get the support of the school of Baruch College this summer, and they're going to co-produce it with me, so it's not all going to be on my neck, so to speak. And I'll be doing Taming of the Shrew and possibly Much Ado About Nothing, two Shakespeare comedies. One of my goals in life is to direct all of Shakespeare. I think that's how you get, Mozart makes you smart by listening to it. Doing Shakespeare makes you great.
And by listening to Devo, it makes you drunk.
Pour me another one.
Yes, do it! Yeah. But would you when it comes to a directing point of view, what would you expect out of your shows, or at least in general? What would you from a director's point of view?
First of all, they have to be entertaining. If they're not entertaining, there's no point. Nobody wants to come in and have to suffer through a piece of life. They want to, be. There's a French word called divertissement, which means divert. To divert someone's attention, to change their consciousness, their state of mind. So the first thing is the project, the film or the movie, or the TV show or the play, whatever you're doing. It has to be entertaining on a certain level. So you have to be able to grab, that is, arrest the audience's attention. And then after that, depending on what the tone of the piece is, whether you're working on a comedy or a tragedy or comic tragedy, historical, comical, tragical, historical, comical, you have to capture the right tone so that, you bring the audience into the story, take them on a journey. I guess one of the things I try to do, aside from making it entertaining, is to make it truthful. It's got to be truthful, otherwise people don't watch. It doesn't mean it has to be real. It can be unrealistic as long as it's truthful.
Any way that you put it, as long as you're putting it out there, you're telling a story, you have to bring them into the story somehow.
Yep, absolutely.
You got to make some kind of a point. It could be political, it could be whatever, but there's got to be a point somewhere across in the story. It's not just, it can't be a bunch of stuff. What the hell is this?
Right. It's got to have a point of view. Well, that's really a directing issue, is you have to have a point of view. That is, what that means translated is, you have to have an idea about the story, a particular idea about the story, whatever that might be, and you want to convey that story. Some people call it a concept. You have to have a concept for the story. So that if you're doing, Hamlet, which is the story of a boy who loses his dad, a man who loses his dad untimely, father is murdered by his uncle, and it's been arranged apparently by his mother and his uncle, and it's a revenge tragedy. You have to decide, what your point of view about that play is, and most people perceive it and retell it as the story of a kid who, really kind of has an Oedipal complex with his mom. He really kind of, love hates his mother, and so they perceive this story and translate the story from that perspective. I perceive the story as a kind of a love-hate relationship with his dad, that it's a story about a man in search of his father, despite the fact that his father's passed. So it's all what your idea is, I know that's a bit cerebral for radio, but it's also true, and I think interesting and valuable.
Yeah, regardless of what it is. You can learn from it as well, even if it is on film.
That's right. Not only are you entertained, but hopefully you're moved, and hopefully, you learn something from it. So, for example, my play Macaire is a play about a 19th century gangster in France in the 1820s, and it's a comedy. It's based on a story by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I was commissioned to to adapt it to the stage quite a few years ago, and I've just stuck with it ever since, and now I finally get my chance to put it up.
How do you feel about it now? I mean, as far as the production.
It's good. I did it at the Actors Studio a few years ago as a staged reading, and the music was fantastic. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but the music came off very, very well. I had a lot of great singers and great musicians playing for me, and it was just beautiful. And the story, it's very stylized, very high style. And Robert Macaire was, in fact, an historical figure. He was a gangster that broke out of every prison in France. And they couldn't keep this guy tied down. No matter where they put him, he broke out. There are documentaries about him and so forth. My story is imaginary, and it's that he escapes from prison with his partner Bertrand, this big, sort of, Lenny character from Of Mice and Men, and they find themselves at this inn on the day a wedding is supposed to take place. And it's a very exciting story, very funny, but very, emotionally dramatic and entertaining. And it all, of course, it's a rock and roll musical, but it's a style piece. So it's a period piece with rock and roll music. So it really pushes the envelope.
Yeah, and it's not really a hesitation, not even for anybody, because look at the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty out there, yet it still made a huge, huge hit. It is a cult classic right now.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, who would have thought the first time they put up the Rocky Horror Picture Show that was going to end up becoming, the classic that it is, or even the Warriors. They didn't know it was going to be a success. They had no idea that the studio was breaking out while we were shooting that movie. They were so over budget, so far behind schedule. It was like the suits would show up every other week and be like, come on, let's get this thing moving. Now, of course, they've made, the video game has made billions.
Yeah, it has.
The actors don't make anything with it.
Yeah. They're all like, yeah, I made huge money, but we didn't get shit.
In fact, I saw David Patrick Kelly yesterday.
Oh, wow, how's he doing?
Yeah, he seemed okay. I didn't really get a chance to speak to him. I was walking down Lexington Avenue, and he was, I think, having lunch with his wife, and he gave me a very supportive and friendly nod below, and I'm a great admirer because he's also a very musical fellow. I think he's in Once on Broadway.
Oh.
He's, of course, famous for going, Warriors, come out and play. He's the one that invented that.
Yes, that was kind of like a last-minute thing because he was the one that suggested to get the bottles from wherever and say, hey, what if I did this? And he also stated that it was from a childhood experience because of a kid saying his name outside of his house, if I got that right. And that's what he incorporated. He put that in there, and it fit very, very well, and I'm glad they kept that there.
Yeah, he's a very good actor and very successful actor and nice fellow.
Oh, well, Remar, yeah, he's been doing a lot of good stuff, too.
Yeah, he was in the Quentin Tarantino movie this past summer. I forget what it's called, but Django, it's interesting, it's good. James does a lot of good stuff.
What would you consider a sacrifice in acting as far as that goes?
A sacrifice?
Yeah, what would you consider a sacrifice? Like how the military, they would have to leave their families to go do whatever they got to do?
I would say probably, we give up that, notion having a security. There is no security in my line of work. You kind of sing for your supper. And a lot of guys, take jobs with a pharmaceutical company or what have you, and you stay there for 35 years or 30 years and you retire, and, you have a secure life in front of you. And I've never had that. So I sacrificed security for freedom. And I don't have any regrets about it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wish I'd done a few things differently in terms of my own, activities. But I wouldn't change anything. It's been a great life for me.
Yeah, what we discussed earlier before we got here is books are no longer they're only on tablets now that you can just read on the internet, or they just go straight to movies.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's just best that way, or do you think the literature should be more out there as itself?
Well, I think that without literature, we're doomed as a society. We need literature. Literature is how we gain perspective on life, and it's many times a moral guidepost. literature is a escape from reality. It's a perspective on reality. It's a rejuvenation of the spirit. Actually, it gives you a chance to redefine who you are by virtue of the fact that you identify with a character in a story. I think we are losing that to some extent because everything is at our fingertips.
Yeah,
you just press a button. Why read the story when you can go get the cliff notes? It'll take you 2 minutes.
Yeah, but we got all these luxuries, electronics, and everything. It's like to the point where you can't really enjoy a book anymore. It's like, what's the point? I can just look it out over here. Or just, I'm going to watch the movie instead. Well, you can't really get all the information from the book into a movie. Just like a lot would say, you can't squeeze the book into a movie.
Right.
You can only take so much.
That's why you need acting training, because you need people like me and the people that I train to learn to master the power of language and the words so that they have learned how to tell stories to keep people's attention. And, it's that power of the story that we can never, ever lose. We can never, ever live without that power of the story. And I get, concerned that we're losing touch with literature and the process of exploring literature and the process of understanding literature. And that's why you need people that understand, like, for example, Shakespeare. And that's why I figured if I was going to be an acting teacher, I was going to do something different than other people, and I was going to teach Shakespeare. And even as far back as like the Warriors. I mean, one of the reasons I got cast was because it was a verbal character. And he wasn't the guy smashing up the fence or taking out his Bowie knife. He was the guy that was like reasoning and evaluating and logically figuring out what to do next. I think that is because I was trained as an actor at Juilliard, and I've carried that sense of the classics with me.
It just seems like everything's more superficial rather than more real.
Yeah, it does seem so, and we have to fight to hold on to that.
Even with music, even with just
absolutely with music.
I love listening to the old classics, man.
Like who, for example?
Anything that you hear like now. Sweet Home Alabama, for example, the song.
There you go. That's a great song.
Love it. Why not? Everybody knows it.
Everybody knows it.
The same thing with film, and it's like I compare between music and film because they're a lot alike. They share a lot of things in common.
Yes, I think they do. I think they absolutely do.
Both are equally making have made impact over the decades, even way back, even from the Egyptian days, even before then.
No question.
Because that's the kind of impact it's been on now. Because if you fast forward to now, you got kids out there. It's like have no idea what's what. Like a lot of them's never even heard of the title Dawn of the Dead or anything, or anything like that. It's
true.
With all the things that's happening now, as far as not to get political or anything, with all the government and all this and this, do you think it's actually going to affect film?
Well, I think that Steven Spielberg kind of nailed it when he said, things are really moving more toward television. A guy like Spielberg almost couldn't get Lincoln made because it was almost an HBO movie. It wasn't until the last minute, I think, that he was able to get the funding for a feature film. Feature films are becoming an anomaly. It's becoming so difficult for people to raise the money. There's a wonderful documentary that Alec Baldwin did called Seduced and Abandoned, and it's a story of he and James Toback, the writer, going to Cannes Film Festival and interviewing, everybody. I mean, Francis Coppola and Martin Scorsese and, every famous director, Bernardo Bertolucci, and a lot of famous actors as well, interviewing them and asking them, how they keep going. And it's becoming more difficult. I don't know politically if that has anything to do with it. I think less than politically has to do with the economy, which perhaps is political, but getting the money to do a movie has become a very challenging proposition. Even 10 years ago, it was much easier.
Yeah, it's becoming so hard that the fact it could either, like you just said, it could be either political, it could be more financial, it could be more of the marketing side, it could be the whole thing. It's everywhere. But that's the thing with what's happening now, as far as the economy wise now. It's like, you think of the possibility it could actually hurt the industry.
I don't think so. No, I think people are always going to need entertainment. They're always going to need escape. and there's always going to be a need. There's always going to be a need for a good film. I think that a lot of people are turning to TV for more, innovative and exploratory possibilities, but there's always going to be the need for a good film. I do think it's becoming obscenely expensive to make a picture. It's really getting out of control. I mean, $10 million is considered a low-budget movie. It's just insane.
Yeah.
In a third world country with $10 million.
When you go in for a movie theater and you watch the film, what are your reactions? Like, you're the viewer, I should say. What do you expect to see here?
Well, just like we talked about before. I mean, I want to be entertained. I want to be, drawn into the story. Most importantly, I want to be able to identify. I want to be able to see me in the story. Even if it's a woman. Even if the main character is a woman, I want to be able to go, that's me going through that crisis. And that main character has to be under some kind of, threat or on some kind of journey, or somehow has to have the poetry of suffering and has to draw me in.
Go ahead and plug in your plays one more time. So where can we check this out? Or is it going to be on video?
Okay, so I'll be, first of all, there is On the Yard, which is coming out on DVD, a prison film directed by Ray Silver, starring John Hurd, myself, Mike Kellen, actually James Remar is in that too, Richie Bright, Dominic Chianese, On the Yard by Malcolm Brawley, written by Ray Silver, directed by Ray Silver. So that's on DVD. I'm directing a play that I wrote called Macaire at the Film School of Cologne in Cologne, Germany. And I'll be doing Taming of the Shrew this summer at Brew College of Performing Arts. Also, if you have any actors out there that are interested in studying, come to Thomas G. Waits Acting Studios. That's thomasgwaits.com. Good talking to you, Mike.
It's time for the movie raid, and tonight's victim is actor David Harris, that is Cochise from the Warriors, also played in Quicksilver, amongst others. Hello.
Hi there.
What have we been up to?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that, just life of an actor.
Life of an actor. And where has life of an actor taken you?
It's been good to me. I've traveled the world. I've been all over the USA and met some amazing, wonderful people. So, it's been good. Good ride.
Now, you've been doing a couple of conventions here now, at least of this year. Are you doing a lot more, or are you kind of pacing yourself?
Well, we pace ourselves. We're in such demand with the conventions, so it's been a lot of fun meeting the fans on a one-on-one basis like that. Next year, February of 2019, will be our 40th anniversary of the Warriors. So, of course, that's going to be a big deal around the country and around the world. So we're really looking forward to that, going on tour and meeting fans from the USA, around the country, and around the world, wherever we go.
Are you doing any other projects in between, or are you basically focused on this for now?
Oh, I've just got finished doing a show called The Deuce, which is based on 42nd Street, Manhattan, back in the day, back in the 70s. So I'm worked on that show, and I'm still doing guest shots all over the place.
You go strictly to just television now, or you pretty much just bounce anywhere that suits your needs or interest?
Well, I kind of take whatever job that I feel most comfortable with and a project that I feel I can lend to with the character that they want me to play. So basically, I'm not doing a lot of theater anymore. Basically, I've been doing a lot of television and film. But it's been a lot of television lately as opposed to film.
Now, since your time in the Warriors, has getting jobs acting-wise, has it actually become a little bit more smoother for you, or is it pretty much the same treatment as anybody else that wants to get a job, an acting job?
No, I'm a veteran actor. I'm not out of the gate. I've been around the block a couple of times. So, most of the people in California and New York, they know me. They know my work. My work speaks for itself. People call and ask my agents and managers, this is David available to do this? We have a job we'd like for him to do. Is he available? So it's like that for me. So, pay my dues, as we call it in the world.
Yeah, oftentimes, since there's any debut of a film or so, usually a lot of actors tend to stick to television and just basically bounce off of that for a while, and then sometimes they'll do something outside of it, and then sometimes you just don't hear back from them at all.
That's true. It depends on how the penguin swings.
Most films a lot of people either interpret it or films actually want to send a message to an extent. Since the Warriors had quite a powerful message when Cyrus gives his speech, do you think that can be applied even in real life, even today?
No, I don't think that. I mean, that's Hollywood. I don't think that you'll have one gang kind of running the whole works. No, I think that that's just Hollywood. But I don't see that. Plus, gangs are not what they were back in the 60s and 70s. And a lot of the gangs in the film were, kind of imagination gangs. I mean, you really didn't have anybody running around just like the baseball Furies or the Turnbull ACs or the Hi-Hats or some of these gangs that you saw in the film. They were not running around New York City dressed like that. I mean, it was Walter's vision, and it was an amazing vision that he had to make these games look like that, to hold the interest of the audience and the visual effects of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly a fantastic film itself, and I'm not going to get all fanboy on it because I think it's I think it's an important film too, because if you were to look at this film and compare it to daily type of activities or events, I mean, you kind of could take a little piece of it, like what Cyrus says in the speech. I mean, I'm talking about the speech itself, not the actions of what he was trying to do, but I mean, like, the speech itself is pretty inspiring.
Yeah, it is. I agree with that. Yeah, it is. I mean, if something like that could indeed be pulled off or come together, I mean, he had a very important message, you know what I mean, in that speech. So, yeah, there's a lot of truth to it in a lot of ways.
I think, like, if they would apply at least some of that even into the film, I mean, it could do well without all the, slapping all the marketing and all this, just to make a package out of it. I mean, if they just go straight to the, ear to the ground source, it could do very well.
Yeah, you have a point there.
Now, how has success changed your perspective on acting itself since the debut of this? I mean, I know you've been in quite a few other projects, but I mean, this one apparently, everyone has certainly talked about. But how has acting in terms of success changed your perspective of you?
Not really. I keep myself well grounded. I go on to the next project. I try to be the best possible actor that I can. I try to give my best work in every project that I do. It hasn't changed me. I'm still a guy that rides the subways in New York City and walks around and ride my bike, and I'm just me. You know what I mean? It hasn't changed me whatsoever since I got out of acting school. The Warriors was my first big major film. To me, it was the film that I had the most fun working on. I met some guys. We have become very, very good friends over all these years. Believe it or not, the film will be 40 years old February of 2019. So, I mean, it's been some time under the rug there with this movie, but it has not lost anything. And the guys, we're very, very close friends, and our little warrior, Deborah von Volkenberg, we've become family. And I haven't changed. I mean, one bit. I'm the same guy, I believe, and my friends tell me, and most of all my family, that I've been since I started acting 40 years ago.
That's just crazy, because you look back between then and you look at now, and I would imagine you almost kind of laugh out, what's going on with how the technology and everything with film now is kind of a little bit more easier, a little bit more smoother here and there. You're like, oh wow, you have no idea what I went through.
Well, the making movies is totally different now. It's so much digital and all this sort of stuff now. When we shot The Warriors, film was still being shot on film, and now it's so much digital stuff and the rest of it. And the technology, it's advanced, and movies look great. I mean, you can do so much with computers and add and take out, embellish and all that. Back when we had The Warriors, couldn't do all that. I'm all for technology and the way they make movies now, but I kind of still like the old way.
Like, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and so forth. You get that kind of in the moment kind of rawness to it. And I mean that in a good way. I mean, you feel the moment. You're basically right there in the moment. You look at these like newer films. Okay, it's all action packed. It's fast paced. It's this and that. Yes, it's got good graphics here and there. But it almost seems like the feeling is not there as much anymore. You can't really focus on the actors themselves.
No, it's because it's so computerized and so technology to the film, you get caught up in watching special effects and all this sort of stuff so much, and acting seems to be secondary. You know, it's all this other stuff that's working in film now. When we shot The Warriors, you got caught up into the film. You got caught up into the actors. You got caught up to what they were doing and what they were saying. All those films back from, you know, when they started, before they started making talkie, you know, silent film. You know, you were watching what the actors were doing, you know, and wonderful directors and wonderful cinematographers. And then we got the talkies, and then you paid even more attention because now you can hear your actors speak. All those great films that came out of the 40s and 50s, film noir, all that black and white great stuff, all those great movies from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. My favorite period was the 70s. I loved all the stuff that came out of the 70s, like Easy Rider and Clockwork Orange, and, you know, some of the stuff that was made by these amazing directors, and the acting was just so superb. And that was my time. I love the 70s, and I love a lot of stuff that came out of the 40s. You know what I mean? The Bogart era, all these wonderful, wonderful actors, you know, the Brando era, you know, all these great films on the waterfront, you know, The Godfather, all these incredible, incredible movies.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like, appreciation seems like it kind of dissipated since then. I mean, you see, like, all like the directors like Clockwork Orange and like you just mentioned, these guys are like started their career, and you know, we know now, you know, since the last 20 years, 30 years, whatever, and so forth. But like the appreciation seems like it's kind of depleted because it's, you know, like I said, it's all action based. It's this, that, this, and you know, slap it on a marquee, a poster here and there. But I'm like, where's that real, you know, in the moment anymore?
No, it's not. It's just it's kind of sad in a way because I think movies have become so technical now and so computerized, and what you can do with computers and what you can do on film now. And, I mean, anyone with a cell phone can go out and make a movie now. You know what I mean? You know,
yeah.
Digital camera, go out and make a movie. You know, but it's technical. It's not the way it was back in the day.
No, that's what I always loved the older films, man. I mean, just like the Warriors, I love the fact that it's in the time period, not like fabricated of the time period. It seems like, you know, the actors were trying to act the part. I mean, you just felt, and you can look that they're trying. I mean, I just think it's fantastic with these older films. I mean, kind of take notes from the directorial notes from then and still apply it today, even though we still have all this nice, good stuff with it. I mean, I'm not saying you're not going to make a bad movie with it.
No, and I agree. That's why I like Quentin Tarantino, because he has a feel for making films that look like it came out of the 70s and 80s. Do you know what I mean? I feel that's my opinion of Quentin's work. You know what I mean? And a few other directors that make their films look like that, you know, and it's not so digital and computerized and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Special effects and all that.
Well, I'm all about practical effects, and you know, I believe it or not, I believe I prefer a guy in a rubber suit rather than a puppet, rather than to see something that looks like just popped out of a cartoon where everything else is all frozen in the background.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
It's like, all right, I'm going to go back to watching this. It's like, well, you're going to watch that? It's like, yeah, I'm going to watch that. But I mean, it's about the quality and the commitment. And do you think commitment has depleted as well? Or do you think it's just a whole new reformation and no one knows what to do anymore?
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, movies has become now about money. You know, it's all, you know, I'm not saying that has not been about money before, but right now it's basically a lot about money. You've got a lot of lawyers running studios and all this sort of stuff that people never see, and it's about, well, you know, the money. You know, we got to get what we want for our money, and it costs so much money now to make a film, unless you're making, you know, student films and very low budget films. And even with a very low budget film, you have to be very careful, because the dollar can only go but so far. It's these movies that they make for, you know, $100 million plus. I mean, the people that are in charge of the studios are worried about their money, you know?
Yeah.
And I understand that, because it's a big investment.
It is.
No one wants to, you know, no one wants to lose. No one wants to put $200, $300, $400 into making a film, and the thing makes $27 million at the box office. You know, no one wants that, you know?
Yeah, they got to make the money back somehow, and I totally understand on that side and stuff. But then when you just basically code the entire film like this, you got to think about the audience, man. The audience they're the ones that are going to watch this. They're the ones that either they're going to like it, they're going to hate it, they might get inspired by it. You never know in general about this, but I think all companies really has to consider what the audience, and not exactly like on their opinion, but the reaction.
Right. Well, I think right now with all the films, all the big budget films, I mean, these directors and their producers are all looking at like, well, okay, what does the audience want right now? Do they want a remake of the Bruce Willis film? It's now with The Rock is called Skyscraper. I mean, all these remakes of stuff, and very, very highly digitalized and animated, and all this sort of stuff. Special effects, great special effects. I'm not taking anything away from that. I mean, the stuff looks great. Back in the day when they made movies, how many special effects did you see in The Warriors? You know what I mean? It was a budget, I believe, of something like $8 million. That was considered a lot of money back in the 70s to make a film like that, like The Warriors. And now, if you would try to make The Warriors today, and I hope they don't, it would cost $80 million more, whatever, I don't know. Dealing with the city and trying to reproduce that.
Yeah, it'll basically be guest rappers playing as the Warriors and guns and all moderated and sex scenes here and there. It's just, I really don't want to get into that.
That would be terrible. To me, my opinion, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. To me, certain films, they're classic films, and you should be left alone, like The Godfather. How do you remake The Godfather?
Yeah. It's like, don't you even dare touch Back to the Future either. Don't ever touch that.
Make The Warriors. You can't. Certain things, leave alone. Leave alone. And Hollywood makes a lot of remakes of stuff. And, to me, I don't go see a lot of remakes of films because I just think, especially a classic kind of clown, I don't go.
Yeah, there's a very few, for me, in my opinion, there's a few actual decent remakes that I was like, okay, that's pretty good, Like, I absolutely love John Carpenter's The Thing, which is it's kind of a remake adaptation. I love it.
That's one of them. That's one of the films that, John did a great job with that. And it was very appealing to the audience, and it was a hit. And it was a terrific, terrific movie. I saw it 3 times.
Yeah.
I saw the original one with James Arness, who played The Thing back in the 50s, when the 50s were cranking out all these monster movies and all that sort of sci-fi movies. I thought that was a classic film, The Thing, the original one. But then John Carpenter did a great job with his remake. But I think he's an exception to the rule.
Yes. The creatures were scary. They're nasty looking, and it just looks very scary. Even the actors, there's some familiar faces, but they're not, at that time period, they weren't that well known. And that's what I loved about that. It's like, these guys weren't just something, this came from, a well-known franchise or whatever, and it's in like half a dozen other films. And to me, that's what really captures that moment. It's like, you don't know who these guys are, and you don't know how they're going to take their characters in this film. You've never seen this film, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good point.
And do you think with companies now, do you think even auditioning for a role is a little bit more selective rather than just auditioning for a role in hopes that you get the role? Because I don't know, they got to save that almighty buck, but sometimes they just simply cast whoever and then just throw them in the film, and then sometimes it doesn't work out.
That happens, and a lot of times, producers, they want to, if it's a big budget film, they want name actors to sell a movie. You're not going to make Mission Impossible without Tom Cruise. It's not going to happen. There's certain movies that the studios just want. They got to have name actors. They got to have what they call Class A actors, first tier. A name before the name of the movie. It's got to be starring, whoever. Then you get the title of the movie. That's just dollars. You got to sell your movie. You got to sell it to the audience, and you got to have people at $200 million movie. You got to have Leo DiCaprio in it or somebody. You can't just put some unknown actors. Most studios are not going to trust. Well, we don't have a big name. Oh no. Some actors came from out of nowhere. We're going to give him a role like this in a $200 or $300 million film. Most studio heads are not going to take that kind of a chance. They want someone that's bankable, that's going to bring the audience in.
Yeah, but when it comes to, like, since you played so many supporting roles and quite a few main roles, how would you actually approach an actual interest to bring that out to the audience, especially when you're playing as a supporting role?
Well, I mean, to me, the supporting roles are always, to me, are the best roles. Like the character actors, like Joe Pesci, who doesn't play the lead man, but always plays the backup and the character guy to the lead guy. I'm a character actor and always have been a character actor, and I approach my work from that point of view. I love being a character actor. I love the kind of roles that I get as a character actor. I'm not going to be the star pretty boy. I'm not going to be wonderful actor Denzel Washington. I mean, I'll be his sidekick. I'll probably be his sidekick, or the character guy towards his character, and I like that. I enjoy. It's not that I couldn't play a lead role or try and carry a film, but basically that's not been given to me. I play the character guys.
Yeah, and oftentimes, yes, the supporting character, yes, can have some interest to the lead role. Oftentimes, but sometimes the supporting role character doesn't really spark any interest. They're like, oh, okay, it's that guy.
No, absolutely. I mean, sometimes I go to movies and I can't take my eye off the character guy. These roles are juicy, they're wonderful, you know what I mean? And a lot of times it can be more interesting than the lead guys or lead women. You know what I mean? They can be more interesting.
Yes, I totally agree.
You remember the bad guy, you remember the good crazy guy, you remember the character guy that was the lead guy or the lead girl, that's friend.
Yeah.
Or their nemesis.
There's always that one guy or that one girl that you could totally point out in like half a dozen of these films. Like, hey, there's that one girl that said that one thing, and now she's doing half a dozen other well-known films.
I mean, I looked at a film like Silence of the Lamb. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Jodie was wonderful, but I couldn't take my eyes off Anthony. To me, the whole film was about him. I mean, she was blah 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 blah, and she was very good in her role, and so many other people, but to me, I couldn't take my eyes off Anthony Hopkins. I mean, I just couldn't.
It's truly amazing when two characters have some kind of a relationship, friends, lovers, whatever, but also have some kind of a bond with the audience themselves. That's what I see a lot of films today, or just kind of not really pushing for that. I mean, sure, you got this pizzazz. You gotta have your audience on your side too at some point.
Of course. If the audience falls asleep or just gets bored, then the film didn't do its job, or something's not right. If you can't hold the audience, something's not right.
Go ahead and plug in anything that you would like to promote, any convention, websites, any dates, or any project that's coming out, or anything like that.
Yeah, people can go to my website. It's called theofficialdavidharris.com, and you can find out what I'm doing, what's coming out, all of that sort of stuff.
There you have it. That is actor David Harris.
Warriors, come out and play.
Hey, this is Ryder here. I was a stuntman in the Warriors, and you are listening to the Movie Raid Show.
It's time for the movie raid. Tonight's victim is actor and stuntman Ryder has done the 1979 The Warriors. Hello.
Hello.
What have been going on, man? I know you've been promoting a lot with your book that came out less than 2 months or less ago, and it's also, I believe, it's on Amazon as well as your purplefury.net site, right?
That's right, exactly. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, online, and then also at purplefury.net.
And this is basically like tell from your perspective view of your experiences within that, more than just portraying the characters in that time. Was that something more valued in that time era as far as credibility goes? Did that help you at all, or was that just one of those things like you hit or miss?
Yeah, it was more hit or miss. I started out as a production assistant, and within a couple days I got bumped up to a location scout. So I spent the first few weeks of the movie running all around New York City, Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, looking for locations for the Warriors. And that in itself was a kind of a crazy experience. I've talked about a few of the things in the book. But then a stuntman got hurt, one of the baseball Furies, and the director, Walter Hill, pulled me aside one night and said, hey, I want to put you in my movie. And the next thing I knew, I was a baseball Fury. I was the Purple Fury.
Working with two gangs as far as character goes, one is on image and the other one is on action and intimidation. Was character pretty much the mentality, was it different for you as far as portraying these two different characters from different background, or to work with that, or was it just pretty much point A, point B with you on whichever you chose?
Yeah, I was just winging it, to be frank. I was the baseball Fury first, and, you know, when they put that makeup and a black wig on you, you just become a different person. And I hardly had to do anything except, you know, follow Walter Hill's direction and do a lot of running night after night. And then finally we got into the bat fights, and I squared off with Michael Beck, who played Swan, leader of the Warriors.
Was the environments working within this particular scene or scenes, like, how did that actually help you out? Was that pretty much a character on its own for you, or did you actually have to add something?
It's just being there at the right place at the right time. It was eerie, it was freaky, it was night, it was hot, and it was just one of the strangest experiences I've ever had. And then you put a real Louisville slugger in all of our hands and have us go at it. It was dangerous. It was pretty tricky. We were especially afraid of getting our fingers smashed. We were blocking strikes by the other guy, and Swan and I really went at it, and he ended up beating the crap out of me. I ended up on the ground, obviously, but we did take after take of that, and there was one take when he was supposed to leap back when I swung at his stomach, and instead he ducked right into my swing, and I was able to check my swing just enough not to splatter his brains all over Riverside Park.
Even though that the working environment, or even just working with the characters themselves, was pretty strict at that time, was simple decision making, or even a simple task, did that become less important too, or was it more on drive and just making it all the way through and just trying to do the best you can with what you have?
Yeah, you know, essentially what happened is with all of the fighting, Craig Baxley, the stunt coordinator, had it all mapped out in all these notes, and he talked us through it. It's all choreographed, precisely choreographed, especially with the bats. You know, you don't want to mess up there. So a lot of it was just rehearsing it, getting it down, making sure you had the choreography right, and then just going through it. You know, we'd often do a rehearsal at half speed just to make sure we had everything straight. And then we'd go ahead and, you know, roll camera. And when they yell action, you know, you bring in the action and flail away and hope you don't get hurt or hurt the other guy.
Oh, you were also the punk.
That's right. I mean, that was one of the highlights of the movie for me, was that bathroom brawl, because I got to throw Vermin into the mirrors. And that was a lot of fun. I think I punched him in the stomach first, then grabbed him and tossed him. And when it came time to shoot that, you know, Terry Mikos, who played Vermin, is not a small man. He's probably 5'11", 165, 170 pounds. And Walter Hill was like, yeah, well, then just pick him up and throw him into the mirrors. And it's like asking someone to pick up a couch and throw it out the window. When it came time to do that, I realized, hey, I can get this guy off the ground. But in terms of tossing him across the bathroom and into the mirrors, there's no way. And Walter and Baxley kind of laughed at me and said, hey, let's bring in the trampoline. So they brought in a small trampoline, and we had a stuntman replace Vermin for the actual toss. So Gary Baxley, the cousin of the stunt coordinator, dressed up like Vermin, and in the crucial part of the scene, they cut away from Terry Mikos and they put Gary in, and he bounced off this trampoline, and I grabbed him as he was coming back up into the air, and I tossed him across the room into the mirrors, and it worked out pretty well.
It's also a tight space as far as working coordination, having to work within such a small environment, especially you're a tall guy and Vermin's a tall guy, and not only that, you got another African-American guy who's from the punks who's also a little bit less taller. I mean, that's a lot of space to take. I mean, how was the coordination really work out? Like, how did that work for you? Did you come in last? Did you, like, what kind of order did that work out for you in this scene?
You know, that scene was so complicated. It was broken down into dozens of camera setups, and so we'd all be standing around the craft service table eating donuts, drinking coffee, and your name was called, and you'd go in and they'd set you up, put you at your mark, and say, okay, this is what we're doing here. Jerry Hewitt is going to get tossed through the bathroom door, and they'd kind of talk through the scene a little bit and do a slow motion rehearsal, and then shoot that. And if you weren't in the scene, you can be on the outside just kind of looking in, because it was really fascinating to watch all this stuff. And then it took I don't know how many days, 5 days or so of shooting that to break all those pieces down, get them shot from different camera angles, do it again, and then move on to the next setup. So it was fractured in that sense. I don't think we ever did one master take of the entire brawl. It was just too complicated piece of action. If you remember, Marcelino, Rembrandt sprays our leader, Conrad Sheehan, in the face with the spray can. Just that in itself took a while to shoot. And then he hits him with a right cross, I think. And even Cowboy got some shots in that brawl. So it was crowded, it was hot and sweaty and smelly, and it was a job, and it was exhilarating at the same time.
In this time, especially in this time, was this more or less minimal? Was safety pretty much minimal, but still was able to make sure everybody was safe? And when it comes to your scenes between the Furies and this one, now again, the Punks is the most craziest one. You got small space, you got all this craziness going on, and you got Mercy smack down in the middle of this. And there's even a scene where one of the Punks gets flipped backwards into a bathroom stall, flat on his back, looked like he just straight up broke the entire thing. Like, how was the safety? Was that huge issues? Was there a lot of coordination with that as well?
Well, you do the best you can in terms of trying not to get hurt. But yeah, people got beat up, people got bruised, and I don't think there were any broken bones in that scene. Interestingly, Deborah Van Valkenburg, who played Mercy, is the one who got injured the most during the course of the movie. She broke her wrist on a subway platform. She got pulled down by a stuntman, and the guy didn't let go of her when he tripped, and she broke her wrist, and that's why she's wearing a windbreaker for the rest of the movie to hide her cast. And then later on, she got hit in the face by Michael Beck with a bat, accidentally, of course, and had a nice cut opened up over her eyes. So she got beat up more than anyone else. But yeah, stuntmen get hurt. They don't talk about it. It's part of the creed, is that you don't talk about your injuries, the pain. You just kind of suffer through it and don't let the director know. You do the best you can. And, Baxi did a good job of taking care of us, but at the same time, some of those hits were real.
Did Walter ever ask you to do anything special between the Furies and this before and after the shots?
Not especially. I mean, at one point, Walter asked me if I was willing to fall down a set of stairs in the subway playing a cop, and I looked down these stairs. I was just like, no way, man. It were like steel treads, and there must have been 25, 30 stairs. I'm supposed to fall over backwards, and I wasn't a trained stuntman, so I just knew I'd crack my head open, so I declined that one. He wasn't too happy about it, but he ended up making me a Fury anyway. Stuntmen get hurt all the time. People don't realize this, that just because they don't talk about it that much. But there are lots of broken bones, and every old stuntman I know has a bad back, especially the ones who are involved in car crashes. I know Baxley has bad knees and a bad back from all the car crashes he did over his career. But again, it's one of those things that you just don't talk about that much. And I talk about it because I never became a stuntman. After the Warriors, I did a little bit more work like that out in Hollywood and just started focusing on my writing career.
Now, there's always the giving a chance or taking a chance for any role or any type of project, regardless of what genre, big or small. But in this case, was this more of a risk for you at that time? This is a different era, same methods but different era of how filmmaking was, and stuntmen and actors, they all went through pretty much through hell in comparison to what we have now.
Yeah, what happens is there are still stuntmen getting hurt, but now with computer-generated stuff, there's a lot that's done in post, so the guys don't actually have to put their lives on the line as much. Back then, I think it was a little more loosey-goosey in terms of injury. I know that when we blew up the car, Swan throws the Molotov cocktail and blows up the car to chase off the orphan, that the guy the special effects guy, probably tripled that charge, because when that explosion went off, parts of the car went flying everywhere. Conrad Sheehan was playing one of the Orphans, and he literally got blown up through the air. He didn't get injured somehow. He's a tough guy. So yeah, it was loosey-goosey. I think there's more control now. There's more concern about injury than there used to be. But if you go back and look at like those John Wayne movies, those Westerns, those were real guys falling off real horses at full speed, and they would do it again and again. They did it as a regular thing, and they got hurt all the time. You just didn't hear about it.
Do you feel that the appreciation of stunt work at that time was a little bit less valued, or do you feel like that was the main thing that people actually needed the most at that time? Because The Warriors was also in a run with another gang film at the same time, and Walter wanted to get The Warriors out first.
It's really hard to say when you look back about how much stunt work has been appreciated. There have been people clamoring for years that it should have its own category in the Oscars. Like they just finally added a category for casting directors that they can get Oscars now, but there's nothing for stuntmen and women, and I really think there should be. It's a really specialized craft, and these guys are literally putting their lives on the line all the time, and they don't get enough recognition. At the same time, it's part of the tough guy credo. It's like, we're the strong, silent types. We do the heavy lifting, and no one even knows who we are, and that's part of the mythology of stunt work.
You being a writer, was this the motivation to write this book for the Warriors on your experiences as well? But did this actually motivate you for your other works or future works, or was this an inspiration to just say, I really wanted to get this out there and see, who can learn from this as well?
Yeah, it's all of the above. I'm primarily a screenwriter. I've written a couple of books, and I just started writing some stories from the movie and posting them on Facebook with some pictures. And before I knew it, I had enough to say, wow, I got a start of a book here. So I really kind of bore down and just kind of ground my way through it, remembering all the craziness that went on and getting it down. And then also some of my Hollywood experiences as a screenwriter. I did a lot of sports work as a second unit director and choreographer. So I talk about some of those experiences as well. The book is really being well received because people aren't ready for it. It's real. It's in your face. It's profane at times, and I just really get into inside action of how things happen on a movie set, and it's chaos very often, and I wanted to reflect that in the book, and I think that the reader really gets a sense of just how crazy movie making really is.
Do you ever want to see your screenwriting works as well as your authorship be almost in the same cultural aspect as what the Warriors did for you? You were a part of it as well, big or small. It became a cultural, almost an icon now. Everybody knows that, and almost yearly they go to Coney Island dressed as the Warriors, dressed as opposite gangs, but they all have a good time. So how much of effect does this really give you when, after just this one project, for your other works outside of this realm, did this become something more? Did it become something that, okay, I did something back then that was a part of my chapter, but this is something, a whole new level, what you can expect from me type of attitude?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. I started getting invited to these fan conventions 2-3 years ago, and they're really cultural phenomenon where tens of thousands of people come out to meet their favorite characters from movies and TV shows. And it's amazing how the Warriors has just become a more and more iconic cult classic because fathers are turning their sons onto it, sons are turning their sons onto it. So suddenly you've got 3 generations of people who know the movie and they want to come out and meet the cast. It's helped me in ways in terms of just legitimizing my history of being in the movies and working in movies. And now with the book coming out, it's starting to catch fire. People are catching on to it and buying it and going, wow, like I haven't read a book in a while and this book really works for me. It's one of those things. I wrote a book for guys who don't read books. It's short, it's fast, it's got a lot of funny stuff in it, and just a lot of real behind-the-scenes action, and people are eating it up.
Do you feel that films like this, and many other films like this who have succeeded in what they pertain, do you feel success should be preserved and not be, in other terms, molested?
There's been a lot of talk about making a remake of The Warriors, and most of the fans are really set against that, as am I. I think it'd be a mistake because it's such a classic and you could only screw it up, I think. So it's one of those things where, you got to look back and just respect the work that was done and appreciate it. To hope that people make new, fresh ideas and keep the whole process moving.
And oftentimes they want to, do a spin-off, do sequels, do this or that, or they want to take a spin-off of a certain character, a main character. Let's say if they want to do that from the Warriors on and on. And honestly, as time keeps going on, it's not going to age very well when you take an existing character from 1979 and completely different time era. That means you have to use guns. That means you have to use bigger explosions. That means you have to put more vulgarity, more sexual nudity, and all this other stuff. And that's not what its original intent was ever been. Not just the Warriors, but many other films who have been remade, rebooted, and just kind of just repackaged and basically recycled. And the Warriors, in my opinion, should not be recycled in any shape or form.
I agree with you, with one exception, that Lin-Manuel Miranda, the guy who did Hamilton on Broadway, is going to make a musical of the Warriors. And I actually think that's a cool idea, to bring it onto the stage. It'll be totally different from the movie. I don't think people have to worry about the movie being sullied in any way. And we'll see what he comes up with. But in terms of a remake or a sequel or a prequel, I don't know. I think they should just leave it alone.
Do you feel like you should never look back, or do you feel like remember it and move on and to succeed on your own rather than to be coined for what you've succeeded in the past?
I have no problem with people looking back and people knowing that, I was part of this cult classic, but we're living in the present, right? So I'm just pushing my own stuff. I've got new projects that I'm working on, and I'm pushing the book out there. I'm hoping people listening to this right now will go find it. purplefury.net. You can get a copy there or go to Amazon and find a copy there. The book is called Purple Fury, Rumbling with the Warriors. Yeah, so I'm just kind of focused on putting the book out there. I got a couple new screenplays that I'm pushing and just getting on with my life.
And there you have it, everybody. That is actor, stuntman, and author Rob Ryder.
Okay, well, thanks very much. I really appreciate it. Everybody take care now and take care of each other.
It's time for the movie raid, and tonight's victim is actor Apache Ramos, that played in the Warriors, High and Tight, amongst others. Hello.
How you doing, Mike? This is Apache from New York, and I was known as the Orphan War Chief, where we had to rain on them Warriors.
Oh yeah. So what's going on with you, man? It looks like you're doing really well in the sun these days.
Well, we finally got some good weather in New York City. It's like 92 degrees. I've been out in the park, enjoying myself. I'm recently retired. 26 years as social worker in the South Bronx and Hell's Kitchen in New York. Also been doing films, and life is good. Life is good. I finished a film called High and Tight with 16 film festivals. I got another one called Vamp Bikers, where we work with real New York City bikers. I don't know if you guys, there's a movie buff, you must know Michael Musto, the film critic. He's in this film. Lilo Brancata from Bronx Tale is in it. The Club Kid guy, what's his name? Michael Alec, who recently came out of jail after murdering a guy. I'm sure you heard about it, the Club Kid killer. And it's a pretty interesting cast. And also, I got a zombie movie coming out this summer called, what's it called? Orchard Beach. Orchard Beach is a beach in the Bronx, and the premise of it is, like, don't go in the water. You turn into a zombie. But yeah, I'm 64 years old, and I'm having a good time.
Now, are you doing films just for the heck of it, or do you still getting kicked back into it like you used to?
Well, no. Well, after I did the Warriors in 1978, which nobody in their mind thought that was going to be in 2018. I'd be talking to Mike from Missouri about the film. After I did the Warriors, I went on a different direction. I wasn't getting cast in anything, and I got into the record business with a friend of mine called Arthur Baker, who happened to be my roommate in college. And anybody that knows music from the 80s, heard of New Edition and stuff, knows Arthur Baker. And we had a hip little record label called Streetwise Record. Discovered some good groups like New Edition and stuff. And I did that for 10 years where I was on tour. I was at one time the road manager of the Fat Boys. I don't know if you guys remember the Fat Boys. I worked with the Fat Boys we did 50 cities in 25 days. And after the decadence of the record business, the good part was I met my wife, who is been married to 33 years now, who was publicist for Sugar Hill Records, and she's the hand of Grandmaster Flash. Furies 5, and the Sugar Hill Gang, the hip and hop, the heavy to the hip hop, all that. After that, about 10 years of working with all these artists like Colonel Abrams, and we had a group out of, you guys in Missouri, had a group out of Detroit called Ready for the World. That's pretty close to you guys, I guess. And so we did that for a bunch of years. After that, I got tired of it and realized fast hit. So it's pretty much like a new movie business too. So after that, I spent 20 years on the front line of the AIDS virus in New York City in the early 90s. I gave up all that stuff, all the limos and all that. Next thing I know, I'm in a pitch-filled elevator in the South Bronx, but I had to get out of that life, and I did that for 26 years, and I disappeared from the scene, and when my daughter Jazz Ray got married, she said, Dad, they got this thing called Facebook, and there's a lot of people looking for you, and I don't know who's who, so I ventured into the Facebook world, and next thing I know, I've been getting parts of movies. I would recommend that to people who are listening, but that's what happened to me, and it's been good. I've been enjoying myself and working with these young artists. I recently worked with Ghetto Films out of the South Bronx. We had a big showcase at HBO Studios here in New York Avenue of the Americas next to Brian. That was about 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I'm having a good time, Mike. Life is good. I got 2 grandchildren. I got a grandson, 7. He's going to be 7. His name is Hendrix, after Jimmy. And my 2-year-old granddaughter is named Santana Ruby Ray, and she was named after my favorite artist, Carlos Santana. So that's pretty much Apache Ramos in a nutshell. Or chief of the Orphans. We were like the Rodney Dangerfield of movie gangs, We weren't invited. Anybody that knows the film knows that. Yeah. Ask me questions, I'll keep talking.
Well, you started out fairly young age, going back to the Warriors. Do you still have that same kind of attitude when you first started out in that film to focus on roles that you currently play in films now?
Oh yeah, you learn a lot more as you get older. I'm 64 years old now. I think I was like 23, 78 when I did Warriors. Yeah, I'm much more for. Yeah, of course, I'm alive still. But back in '78, New York was a totally different place. The whole audition process for the Warriors. I had been turned down for a lot of gigs. At that time, I was doing plays. Did a play with Nation of Islam, my Hakeem Theater back at the time with a brother named Saladin Shakur, and we did a play called Armageddon, and I played one of the inmates at Attica East Stop. And, but it was good times. New York was a different place, really, really nitty-gritty times. But my focus then wasn't so much in acting. I wanted to act, but now that I think about it, I was more trying about to survive back then. But yeah, that's pretty much how I started. I started really writing plays, and I had never really seen a play. I was a big movie guy because that's all we had back then. Growing up in the Bronx was watching movies, and I just love movies. I love those old classic movies. I always wanted to be in the movie. And I just so happened to get cast by Walter Hill in The Warriors. It was at that time I had an agent because I was friends with a guy named Treat Williams. You might know him. He's a really good actor. He's done many, many things. And I knew his sister in college. And he got me an agent through what we call Janie Sell, who was a Broadway actress. And, I got sent to things. I didn't get it. But the day I auditioned for The Warriors, I was wearing a t-shirt with silver letters that Bronx had shorts on. I really had the biggest afro, as you guys probably seen by now. I really had an attitude like I didn't care anymore. So I even had a bottle of rum, which I don't suggest when you go to auditions. And I was sitting up there in the Paramount Golf and Western building, Columbus Circle, and there was a lot of people auditioning for The Warriors. And I was just sitting there. I was taking a sip here and there. This guy sat next to me. We started talking for a while, and I offered him a taste. He took a little taste. He disappeared. I didn't see him again. And then when they called my name to audition, to read some lines, and I walked in the room, it was Walter Hill. It was the same guy that had next to me. And he said, Apache, he's a real cat, and I want to offer you this part as orphan number 2 in my film, The Warriors. And had I met you sooner, you might have been a warrior, which might have changed the whole dynamic of that thing. But we'll see. And I was blessed to have gotten that part. After we did the scene, I forgot about it. It was just a job. And as I've gotten older and older, and then the Warriors are like the Rocky Horror Show of cold film, So, I love, recently I was up in Yonkers, they were playing it, and I got invited by a bunch of my friends who dress up as the Furies. People were really nice to me. And I tend to go every summer, at the end of the summer, at the Coney Island Film Festival. I go to Coney Island a lot still, even though it's Warriors turf. Love the Orphans. And they have the Coney Island Film Festival, and at midnight, they play The Warriors, and people come dressed up. That's the best part. See, people come dressed up as me. Mostly the other characters. I do have my Orphan Nation, and they come down. And Saturday, I'll be at Long Island Rock and Roll Festival. I got booked for that, so that's pretty interesting. And I'll be signing autographs and meeting people. But the best part about being in the Warriors is people tell me the first time they saw it what it meant to them. I have a number of persons telling me that their father, they never saw their father, and their father promised to take them to the movies, and he finally took them to the movies, and he took them to see, we were going to see Lady and the Tramp, and the father tricked him, and he saw the Warriors. So he had that bond, and he really liked the part where the Orphans are in it. And he'll tell me these stories the first time they saw it, what it means. No matter what I do, I got gold records, I got platinum records, but I will always be known as the Orphan, the bro with the fro, as they say here in New York.
One of my top favorite films because I have more positive things to say about that film than I do negative. First of all, I love the time period that it's in because it was literally filmed in that time period. It was literally filmed with real gangs at that time. It was, I can imagine how chaotic it was in that time period. The story itself, I think, is excellent because there's so much going on, and not only that, it's almost a cultural, worldwide cultural impact in history because if you look at it, here are these gangs, they all just want one thing. They just want their own piece of land, their own turf. They don't want anybody messing with them and so forth. And then you got Cyrus who wants to band together for his views and so forth, make their own, as a whole. Like I said, I like the characters. I love the gangs. I love there's different gangs. It's not just like two sets of gangs and then they just run away and so forth. Because if this was fast forward to now, it would be so modern with guns and sex scenes and all this other stuff.
That's one of the questions I get a lot. What do I think about a remake? And, everything gets remade, but the Warriors captured that time period in 1978, the real decadence of New York City, and it wouldn't have the same flavor. And like you said, it would be so modernized. It would be... If you think about it, the Warriors, the movie itself is not really that violent compared to films today. But at that time, when we came out, there were mass protesting about why are they making this movie, why are they making that. If you look at it now, it's not that violent at all. The scary part of the movie was that if we all band together, we take over, basically. I think was the scary part. But it did capture the end of the 70s. It was like the beginning of hip-hop and quartet. Tagging the graffiti with Rembrandt, and they had that darkness of New York City. The New York City that I miss in a lot of ways, but like my daughter just said, how did you survive that? Well, there was the alternative sucked, so you had to survive it. The Warriors, it means so many things to so many different people when they talk to me about it. And the way it was filmed, Walter Hill is a genius. I mean, the way he would water the sets all the time. Another thing he did, when he offered Paul Greco, rest in peace, the leader of the Orphans, my man, no longer with us, he wouldn't let Paul and I see the Warriors. We did not see the Warriors until we actually shot. And we had no idea. We were just going with the script. Our lines were funny. We knew what our status was compared to the other gangs. And Paul and I were trying to make it work, but when we saw the Warriors, they were not intimidating to guys like me and Paul. So that was fun. We was able that, the Orphans, we get a lot of love. I think the Orphans get a lot of love because everybody I've once felt like an orphan has not been invited, doesn't fit in. And that's where the Orphans come in.
Yeah, and the gang itself, I mean, they're very low class, but they have a very strong numbers in terms of the outfit. But yet, this type of gang, according to the Riffs, is not to the point where they should be on their network. That's why they weren't invited. And if you look at them against the Warriors, they really show yellow rather than their true colors against them, so to speak. Like I said, it's definitely a unique gang. I mean, like I said, the gangs in this film is all unique on its own. You have the punks, or at least they're not called the punks in the film, but there are, the punks, the Lizzies, even the gangs that are really not well known, like the Turnbull ICs. We heard of them by Snow and, nothing else, but you get the important thing is you get a sense of who these gangs are, or at least get an idea where they're coming from. Same thing with the Orphans. Like, these guys are like, they're strength in numbers, but they're like so low class and so, in a way, disrespected. They want the attention, but they don't get it.
Yeah. I have a lot of fun when I meet people, and fans have made an orphan site. So I have on Facebook, I have a site that just says the Orphans. what's it called, Orphan? We have a heavy rep or something like that, and I get a lot of love, a lot my fan, and there's different groups on Facebook too. But every day, somebody posts something on the Orphans side. It's great to be part of something that became so huge. They have all this, like the Warriors themselves. They have like little action figures. I have a UK that make my Orphan figures. It's really funny. I have a little action figure. It's so weird to see that. It's been great for my daughter. My grandson doesn't know anything about the Warriors yet, but he will. But he knows, and they bring me posters to sign and things like that. He started to pick up on that. He's more into Star Wars. Thank God he got over Frozen. Frozen almost killed him. Let it go, let it go, let it go.
And of course, give props, of course, to the composer of the Warriors. Excellent music. I forgot to mention that. I love it.
So much a part of it. When you watch it with fans, people, they're still showing it in New York in different places. They have Warrior Nights and stuff like that. They even have a bar. We got together, some of us, like Coach Cheese, with David Harris, a.k.a. David Harris, and Wanda Velez, one of the Lizzies, and Jeannie, who's the candy store girl, and we got together with a bunch of fans who's got your stuff, and there's a bar on the Lower East Side of New York that has a drink called the Warriors. So it's so funny to be part of pop culture. When Shaquille O'Neal won the NBA title, he's like, can you dig it? I mean, so many times I've heard we're going to rain on you on different things. And that line, that came about as we were doing improv in Walker Hill. We were setting up where the car's going to explode. And we're doing improv. And we were just yelling until they blew up the car. And I came up with that line, we're going to rain on you for me. And Walter really liked it. And thank God he did. Although I've said it at least 1,000 times in 78, it's fun to have a line that people remember so well, And there's a lot of lines in the movie that people remember. The other day when I saw the Warriors in Yonkers, at the Alamo Draft House in Yonkers, New York, the guy was kind of a buzzkill that was showing the movie because he was like, please don't say the line. When you go to Coney Island, everybody's saying the line, at different shows. They're saying the line word for word. Because there's not many... there's not much dialogue in it, so everybody knows all the key lines to the thing. So, and the way Walter would water down the set before we got on set, he gave us that real serious look. But the music, absolutely, the costumes, just fabulous. Yeah, it was fun, a lot of fun.
Yeah, when it comes to these films that actually over time become a cultural impact, do you think studios, the more bigger Goliath, so to speak, should take a look at these types of films and actually be more natural rather than predictable?
It's a good question. I don't know. The Warriors was made by Paramount Pictures. It wasn't an independent film, so they were one of the big guys. But if they do redo the film, which I've been hearing this since about, I would say, since about 1984, I've been hearing about a remake of the Warriors, and that's true. I just hope they hire some of us old actors who are still out there. The Orphans, with the line with the social worker. I became a social worker.
That's crazy, man. We'll go ahead and plug in anything that you want to tell, any release dates, any new projects that you want to go out. Talk about the films that you were in, anything, or can we expect these to be on DVD and so forth?
Van Bikers, I thought it was going to be on Netflix, but it's going to be on Amazon, I think June 23rd. The High and Time is just made the short independent film circuit. I think we came in third out of hundreds of short films in New York City last year, and we did the 16 Film Festival. I won a Best Supporting Actor in Canada. They like me in Canada. The other films, Orchard Beach is supposed to come out sometime. They finished it on Monday, because they called me on Monday, so I don't know actually when that's going to come out. I also did a documentary about it's funny how Facebook is. I wrote a post at my first job. I don't know if they have these in Missouri, but we used to have these things called the automats in New York City, where we had this Art Deco places where people used to eat their communal way, and you put your nickels into the machine to get your food, and it was just beautiful stuff. What you would call it in there? Supreme Court Justice, she's in it talking about her days there. What's her name? Ruth Bader. She's in it. Mel Brooks is in it talking about his experiences at the automat. So that's coming out too. And then, let me see, Orchard Beach, Grand Bikers, and I think that's it. now. I'm waiting on hopefully some new projects. If not, I'm enjoying my retirement and my grandchildren and having a good time. Still doing warrior things. People send me stuff to sign, so it's all good. Thank you, Mike.
Anytime, man. That is actor Apache Ramos. It's time for the movie rating. Tonight's victim is actor Guy Stevens, known for his role in the Riffs in the movie The Warriors. Hello.
Hello. How you doing, Mike?
Fantastic, fantastic. So let's start with the location of the Riffs hideout. Location in the city, or was any other location?
Location for the movie. My scene was shot in Manhattan on the west side, on 8th Street, I think it was, in a garage. That's where the Gramercy Riffs, in the Gramercy part of Manhattan, which is in real life is Gramercy. You call the Gramercy Riffs. That's the game that I was in, the Gramercy Riffs. All right. It was 7th and 11th Avenue in Manhattan. When he shot the scene where Cyrus, now Cyrus, that's Roger Hill. Roger Hill was my grandmother in real life. Roger Hill, can you dig it? That's Roger Hill. He was my grandmother's godson. Didn't know that, did you? His mother, Roger Hill's mother, and my grandmother was very good friends. My grandmother lived on the 4th floor in the Bronx, and she lived on the 5th floor, 872 Boston Road in the Bronx.
And having getting this role in the Riffs, having to be in first approach to it, like, did you think that financially this might actually help you out a little bit, or was this just one of those just live day by day? Because this was back in 1979, 1978, in terms of filming wise. Was this something that you thought this might have worked for you in terms at that moment as an actor, or did you think this was going to be kind of a we'll see what happens and not really care for it at the time?
Exactly. You know something? I started thinking like that. Let me say something. I was in the Bronx. I was walking as I'm a dog trainer, and I called up. Happened to call up a guy I used to work for. I used to train dogs, but it's Captain Haggerty. His name was Captain Arthur J. Haggerty. Captain Arthur J. Haggerty on the bottle, Mr. Clean. Mr. Clean was a real person. That's Captain, the bald-head guy with the earrings. His name is Captain Arthur J. Haggerty. True, real person. I gave him a call in reference to working dogs because he wanted me to stay in contact with him. I did a lot of attack work with him. As a matter of fact, President Noriega of Panama, we trained and sold a dog for him, and I had to retrain the dog that went to President Noriega. But I asked him to give him a call. It was in August, and he said, "Guy, give Jerry Ann a call. She has a movie that you could be in." So I gave Jerry. Jerry was, I understand, I think she was Fire Forces double. But I understand Jerry Ann was a stunt woman. I gave her a call. I met her on a movie on the set in Central Park. They were shooting hair. I said, Cam, I always wanted to be a stunt man. This was 1977. Always wanted to be a stunt man. We went on the set, and they didn't use the dogs. But what happened, she took my number that year, 77, 78. She gave Captain a call. I happened to call the captain. Coincidentally, boom, from right there. Came down, I went down to location Sylvia Faye's casting, the casting lady down in Manhattan. I took off from there. From there, we went down to the shoot, met Craig Baxley, one of the drivers for Dukes of Hazzard, and I met him. That was that. Got into the movie Warriors. Wasn't a Screen Actors Guild member, but that day I got paid. Good, non-union. Took off from there. I went to started meeting stunt coordinators. Cliff Cudney, I used to see the shoots in Manhattan. Stopped by actually. Right, so when you got my resume, they give me a resume picture. Then from there, took off and met him. Cliff Cudney, in my resume, workout days, went out to work out, a stuntman workout, and I started meeting people, man. And my goal was getting to the stunt world. I dislocated my arm, so I had to fall away from that, man.
In terms of like getting into this role, even though there's a lot of very minor roles, and of course we know the main setting here is of course the gang, the Warriors, but having to be in just a part of the gang, it doesn't necessarily have to be like the gang leader or lieutenant or whatever. The fact is, like, how much of this role did you actually put into it? Did you think this was just, okay, I'm going to just stand here and just act like a part of the gang, or did you actually thought that this was much more than what it seems?
No, I did. I said, so I'm going to take it from here. From here, I stood there. I was an extra. Some opportunity, blessings just started to come through because I stuck with it. My goal was to be a stuntman, and I was good at receiving blows, meaning you throw a blow at me or punch at me, I'd make it look real. But what happened was to throw a blow back, it was hard for me because my arm would come out of my shoulder, receiving and car driving. And, I didn't get them scenes because I'm going to be honest with you. It's like, Mike, it hurt me that I dislocated my arm, and I have a dislocated arm that keeps falling out. You're not 100%, man. You can forget about, the stunt work unless you get a little something that's not going to affect your arm. happened to do with a dog that protects you. The stunt work, I had to forget about that. Well, reality was that you're not going to be the stunt man. You're going to stick with the dog training. You're going to be New York Knicks. I did several scenes. I worked on as a matter of fact, I met Don Robinson, one of the great scenes there too. He died doing a rehearsal stunt. Don Robinson was always in Burt Reynolds' movie with Stunt Man and Sharky's Machine. That fell out the 14th story building. That didn't meet him. He called me. I got called for the movie Nighthawks. That's Stallone and Billy D. Williams. Got that call. And that same day when I saw Don Robinson, I didn't have my resume. But anyway, that same day I get Captain Cole to let him know that I got a call from, I met Don Robinson for Nighthawks. I said, okay, I'm glad you called. Guess what I'm working on now? That same day, I'm working on all my children. And I needed to train a dog for all my children. Even though I didn't get no work doing stunt work, I would do maybe a commercial with a dog and work on all my children, train some adultments on the set. That's what that was, I stayed into the...
Since this film was released, what was the more advantages and disadvantages in the film, filming the film, and then outside the film, like after the film was done? What was the more for you? Now, you mentioned that since you dislocated your arm and stuff, and having that's, of course, clearly it's a disadvantage, but like, were there other advantages and disadvantages performing the role? And then after the movie was released, was there anything that actually affected you personally as an artist, or as far as recognition, or anything else related?
It's like, what I should have done was, I didn't think about it. What I should have done was got into the Screen Actors Guild. And at that time, you need to say a few words. From what I understood, get your card, the Screen Actors Guild card, and that's the advantage. But what happened, I didn't go for that. I got depressed, man. To be honest, I got depressed. That's where I was sitting down and hating myself, is that the reason why I dislocated my arm, because it was over a fight. I jumped in my face. It broke me, and I hit him, and wow, man, never forget that day. I hit him. Matter of fact, it was a friend of mine. I hit him, and he really provoked me, man. Wow, shook my arm out, and it messed me up. I got into a depressed thing. It was, man, it was lesson to be learned, controlling your temper, thinking before you act. If I had got my Screen Actors Guild card, I would have got more. But, things happened in the year 78, discos, parties, and what happened, distractions came along. Partying, and, you're not focused. Being a stuntman, which I had to say, well, you're not going to do the stunt work that you want to do, which I want to do. I wanted to do building falls. I wanted to get at the building falls, and what happened now, you need your arms for that, man. You need to know how to use your arms and control the balance up in it while you're coming down into whatever your airbag or your boxes. I got depressed, man, because I couldn't do that, man. And it hurt. Like, you got into the fight, and it would affect me down the road. It's life, man, but, it's what it is, man. I come to terms with, look, okay, I have to, what am I going to do now? I'll continue training dogs. That's my happiness. Doing my obedience, my protection training. You just have to now, you're going to work for professional people. And by meeting professional people like Cliff Cutting, the stunt coordinator, he knows this actor. Everybody knows everyone. You have to do what you have to do. Is all right, look, get up, dust yourself off, get it together, and focus on what you want to do for the future. Distractions came along the way. You just have to guard in your life. Things are turning out. Other than that, I'm all right now. Physically, I'll be 61 March 24th. I'm still around. My father passed at 47 years old, man. I continue, man. All right. So now what I'm doing now is 60 to 61, back into the game, back into the business. Your mistakes that you make, Mike, in life, I'm newborn now. I'm born again, so I know what I've done in the past. Don't let it happen again. You know what you did wrong. You know what's right and what's wrong. Fresh new life, do the right thing. And my thing now is to let the younger person, the people that these guys are, these kids now are different. The gangs now, there's really no gangs these days. Gangs back in my days when I was a black assassin, when I was a gang member, hey man, I was in the black assassin. You had the black spades, black assassin, peacemakers, ghetto brothers. We had a lot of gangs involved, man. Real gangs, and some had guns. It's not the way it is now. These guys get M16s. They got AK-47. We didn't have them. I was in a baby assassin. We can get that now with no problem. Have guns. We had sticks, baseball bats, stick with nails in it, chains, knives. Not about that now. Now it's about guns. That even changed, man, because the gangs are not like well, the Crips. Yeah, you don't have these gangs like you used to in the 60s. It's different.
since the release of this film of the Warriors. The fact is, I mean, there are gangs, but they are the kind that are so influenced, real or not real gangs. There are so many people that are been influenced by this particular film, because this film was about honor and uniting. And some people could probably take it as a negative because of the content in this film. But the fact is, these gangs all believe in the same thing. They all want the same thing. Cyrus was trying to get everybody to prove that they can unite, they can take over, and they're not taking no more crap from nobody. And the fact is, this has such a powerful feeling, a speech, influence, and since then, like, so many people has been influenced by this film, and that gives them the power to stand up, the power to unite, and the most positive aspect. And you can imagine everyone's dressing up the Warriors, the Orphans, the Riffs, punks. I mean, just everybody. It's just they're all in the same place, and nobody, like from the movie, nobody is wasting nobody. Everybody's just having a good time. So with you being a part of all of this and having to get this recognition, you can look back at this and say you were a part of something that became such a big impact in cinema as well as culture and everybody's lives, because every day, every other year or whatever, they always have the Warriors events and anniversaries and all kinds of stuff, and that's the best thing. And that's a really proud moment. And even it doesn't matter if you were just standing there, it doesn't matter if your face was in there. The fact is you were a part of it. The fact is that you were there, and you lived in an era that filmmaking was still very rough then, and especially when this film was being made, there were real gangs back then too. I mean, there wasn't just play gangs. There were some serious real gangs during the making of this film while on the set. Achieving this recognition for you, the fact is, do you think this is something that from the Warriors, do you think like that speech, do you think that you can apply this in today's society? You think that would have been better?
Hey Mike, 100%. You said that well, and it's true. It's like what was important, a part of what he said when Cyrus says no one's basic, no one. The gangs at war in the street, they all together, standing and listening, to this one guy and said, we can do this. We don't have to fight. We're bigger than the cops. We don't have to fight. Let's stop fight among each other. And what's happening in real life, this actually happened. With the gangs, it actually happened. They had a meeting up in the Bronx on 174th Street in Hoe Avenue at the Boys Club. This actually happened. The gangs got together. It's gotten bigger than it was now by having, expedition. When they get autographing. I mean, these people, I never thought that it would be like this. I mean, you got Warrior fans. You see Warrior page on Facebook, a Warrior organization. What's going on is people don't just want to see. They got enough Warrior autographs. And what I was told yesterday was, listen, you want other members, you got the Warriors, but what about the other gang? What about the Lizzies, the Orphans, the Riffs, the Punks, the Roogs, those other people that made the Warriors without them chasing the Warriors? Hey, there's no Warriors. Warriors running the road, the people in the roller skates, the Punks. Other than that, man, I never thought it would be like this, man. I went on Facebook, posted my picture of me in the Warriors. Hey, all of a sudden, my page is right there. You was in the Warriors, Rudy, and Dave helped me out a lot. Dave helped me out. He's like my manager. Things are going to happen this year, with the war, autographing. And he said to me, he said, they want other members of the movie in the Warriors. They want other members like you guys, Red Orphans, Lizzies. We got enough Warrior stuff. They never mess with Warriors no more, but they want autographing pictures of other members in the movie. Never thought, I'll say it again, Mike, I never thought it would be like this. All these big events coming up.
I do have a request saying that, could you say the line from the movie?
Riffs! Yeah, right!
Go ahead and plug in any websites or any events that you're going to be attending to regarding to the Warriors, or any other projects that you might be working on or anything related.
Or anything, but there are things that are being planned things with me and my manager, to event. It's going to work. It's going to work. I'll keep you posted on that.
Well, there you have it, everybody. That is actor Guy Stevens.
Ladies and gentlemen,